Okay. So, want to take some seats? We'll start the meeting. We're a little light on community members, but we do tape this, so probably perhaps people are scared of the atmosphere or something. Welcome to our June meeting. Announcements. I have regret to say that Brad Stave, who was one of our board members, gave his resignation, got family and work commitments. We have had two recent additions, so it's not quite as concerning, but we still have some openings. So if anybody is aware of anybody, member, please send them in direction. Minutes of the last meeting circulated to the board by Alex. Got some work commitments tonight, so he's here. But if I could just have a motion for the approval of last month's budget. Jeff second it. Jeff will second it, and the discussion. All in favor, say aye. The treasurer's report, Jody, who underwent surgery this afternoon, so we wish her well. But she has circulated last the updated financials at last only. So we are current. We've completed our annual report that we have in the city. One of the requirements for them to give us our annual grant. That is underway. We should be getting a check from the city for our operation. So, as usual, we thank Jody for the great work she does. Sure. I'm going to go into the standard liaison reports. So we have two people from the police department. If you would like to come up here, look into the camera and tape you. Don't press.
Oh, perfect. Right. Yeah. But I feel like I'm looking at myself. Good evening, Officer Kristen Brazil. I'm got on update. Large project.
You should.
Oh. Perfect.
Let's try that.
Okay.
There you go, Chris.
Perfect. Okay, let's try this again. So Westgate North, Westgate South shopping centers, from North 21st all the way up to North 30th on Pearl on the east side of the street there. It was one of our areas that we were receiving a lot of 311 complaints and a lot of feedback from the community about some of the loitering and drug use and homelessness that was happening in the parking lot on the private property. And so we have been working on that project since December-ish.
6 months now.
Yeah, so it's been about 6 months. And we've had a lot of really good success with that. We've partnered with Neighborhood and Community Services as well as with the HEAL team and code enforcement. We were able to get trespass authorizations from the complex owners themselves, and then also from all 62 businesses that were in that in those two complexes, in order to be able to remove unwanted loiterers from the property and start taking a little bit of enforcement to help clean up that shopping center, because people were feeling really uncomfortable walking past the folks that were loitering in front of the businesses, doing drugs and whatnot, to go shopping there. So we did that. We've taken some enforcement action there as well. We've made a couple of arrests, and we've also assisted Neighborhood and Community Services in getting a handful of folks into some housing as well. So that's been kind of our big project to speak of, that we've worked on here, and we are continuing our efforts. Officer Wallen and I patrol that shopping center daily on the days that we are here at work, and sometimes multiple times a day. So it's been a big success. It's been a huge thing, you know, that we've kind of accomplished here, and hope to continue to make some good positive change there. Outside of that, you want to talk about street racing a little?
So we continue to do street racing emphasis mostly Friday and Saturday nights, but also if there's any intel that something's going to happen outside of that, they'll put on a set mission at that time too. Additionally, that's going to include emphasis down on the Ruston Way waterfront this summer, and also North 10th Street, which is the Jackson and SR16 interchange there, where there's a lot of loitering and some criminal activity as you overlook the bridge and the sunset and all that. And we're working with the city as well to maybe make some engineering improvements there to mitigate some of the parking issues and reckless driving. So those are ongoing projects, but you should see some street racing emphasis, or just some targeted emphasis in the north end in the areas with increased vehicle traffic and known nuisance issues this summer. Oh, yep, and point defiance is on that list as well.
Yes, sir.
There was an article on TV about Seattle having to go through all kinds of hoops to impound this really noisy, terrible car that was racing up and down the streets in Belltown. So how hard is it to impound a car when somebody's street eventing and really noisy and stuff like that? Can you impound the car on the spot? And how long can you keep it? And will the court eventually hold it?
So I can't answer that question specifically, but to simply impound a car for noise ordinance is very challenging. But for reckless driving or racing, or I believe it's a municipal code under exhibition of speed, it is easier because that's a criminal offense. So on the arrest, you're legally allowed to impound vehicles. However, there is no hold on them unless there's evidentiary value, which usually there is not, because they weren't involved in a collision or other crime. So typically the owner can go get their car out within 24 hours. But at some point, they will not enjoy the process of having to repeatedly get their car out of impound and pay those fees. What the courts are going to do with those, I can't speak to the courts and the prosecutor and what they will and will not charge on them.
Is this something we should be speaking to our legislators about?
I believe so. If you would like to see more enforcement and have that be a higher priority, that's something I believe the city council would want to be aware of.
I think the third event, you should impound the car and sell it.
I like your ideas.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation, and we'll have you up for the roundtable when we get onto that. We normally have John Gaines from Tacoma Power give us a presentation each meeting. He's off on some family leave, but he did send me a message to give a few announcements. There was an outage on Monday that was caused by some trees falling on some lines. It wasn't our area. I think it was the outer areas, but they've been working on that. There's some water saving kits that are available through Tacoma Water. So if you want to have something, they'll give you a rebate, a discount off your irrigation system, or something you can put onto the tap to water to stop the hose running. And lastly, there's a workshop coming up on the integrated response plan, which will be on June the 25th. The integrated response plan is how they deal with outages. So anybody who's particularly interested in that, that's an opportunity to find out how the Tacoma Power deals with that and how they're looking at improving that response. And Christina, if you'd like to come up and give the city report.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Deputy Mayor Hines will be here shortly, so I will let him tell you all about Pothole Palooza, which has kicked off this week in Tacoma. But I will flag for you just a few things. So as I believe you are all tracking, the City Council has been engaging in the charter review process. And there's going to be an opportunity for public comment specifically on the Charter Review Committee's police accountability proposal. This opportunity will be on June 10th at the Community Police Advisory Committee meeting. And the proposal, you can read more about it online, but essentially creates civilian oversight of the police department. So if you want more information about that meeting, you can find that on cityoftacoma.org/CPAC. I also wanted to flag for anyone who's planning to attend the city council meetings in person during the month of June. They will be meeting in the TPU auditorium. So they're just changing locations while there's some construction that's going to be happening in the city council chambers. So please make sure to note that if you plan to attend in person, virtual options are still available. And then last, I wanted to flag that the Mayor's Youth Commission has 10 open spots for young people. This is grades 6 through 12. So if any of you know young people or have some kids out there, please encourage them to apply for the Mayor's Youth Commission. It's a really great opportunity to advise the City Council on issues through a youth lens and get a lot of great experience in local government. So please encourage folks to apply for those spots. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. And we don't see any city council people. So now I'd like to have Alyssa Torres come up, and she's going to, you have a presentation. So we're going to have to somehow get that up on the screen. So.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Alyssa Torres. I am a senior planner with the city of Tacoma. Thank you so much for having me here this evening, and hello to everyone in virtual land. I've been here a couple of times before. If you recognize me, have been previously here with Elliot Barnett talking about our Home in Tacoma project. And I will give a short update on that at the end of the presentation. But the presentation tonight is focusing on a different project that we're working on at the city. and that is the comprehensive plan update. So I'll show you what kind of go over what is a comprehensive plan, kind of what's being updated throughout the city with this update, and some of the engagement activities that we are planning to make sure that we are hearing from our community as far as what we need to be updating and what we want our vision to be for the next 25 years of Tacoma. And then go over again some of the engagement tools that we're using, including some upcoming visioning workshops. And then we have, if we have time, we have a short little activity that we can do to start some discussion and get some feedback. But essentially, we will start with, what is a comprehensive plan? Does anyone here know what a city's comprehensive plan is or what it does? And I know you are, but that's okay. I'll allow it. Let's see if anyone else knows besides Elisa. She's not a plant, I swear. Anyone else have an idea of what a comprehensive plan is or what it does, how the city uses it? No? All right, Elisa, do you want to try? Wow, it's like you were a planner, you know this so well. That is a great answer. Yes, so the comprehensive plan is really how we're going to be using our land and resources over the next 25 years. So we do an update to this plan every 10 years. The last time this has been updated was in 2015. And so we're currently looking at what we had from 2015, making sure that we are updating it to make sure that we're meeting the goals of our city as we continue to grow. So this is really a shared vision among city staff and residents for what Tacoma is going to look like in the future and how we use those lands to meet our goals and to make sure that our community and our city continues to thrive. It really guides decisions on how we use those lands, just like Elisa said, how we improve our streets, our transportation options, our housing, our care for our public buildings and public services like parks and libraries. And it really outlines the goal, the role of the city as a civic, cultural, and economic hub in the region and how we maintain those services throughout the city. And this is important because, as we know, the city of Tacoma and the Puget Sound region as a whole is expected to grow over the next 25, 50 years, right? So we are trying to plan for 5.8 million new residents in the region by 2050, which means that we have significant amount more people, which needs more homes and needs more economic development and jobs. So we want to make sure that our comprehensive plan reflects the things that we need to do in order to accommodate for this growth so that everyone can continue to live in a happy and thriving city. So the city of Tacoma's comprehensive plan is called One Tacoma. This is what it looks like over on the left. And these are the kind of things that go into this document and go into this update and why it's so important. It goes from this is actually mandated by the state, our Growth Management Act. We also work with the Puget Sound Regional Council and Vision 2050. We work with the Puyallup Tribe, and we have lots of countywide planning processes that are really important to keep updated for this comprehensive plan. And then the comprehensive plan itself is broken up, broken up into different elements or chapters that focus on different kind of areas of the city. So the chapters, the policy elements or chapters are things like urban form, design and development. There's a housing chapter, transportation, public facilities and services, parks and rec, environment, economic development, and historic preservation. So these are the elements that are going to be updated during this process. And then at the top is kind of our focus areas as we look to update all of these different chapters, making sure that we're looking at equity, public health, sustainability, and opportunity. All of this is on our comp plan update. You can actually click through each of the individual chapters and read through what the policies and goals are for each of these areas from the 2015 comp plan. And then we can see kind of where we want to see some changes, where we need to see some updates for this most recent plan change. So the guiding vision behind this comp plan update is really around this idea of complete neighborhoods and making sure that Tacoma's future, we envision a future where every resident can reach their daily essentials like groceries, doctors, schools, parks, medical care within 15 minutes without a car. So how can we help facilitate that with this comprehensive plan update? What are the kinds of tools and things and land use changes that we can make to make this easier and more accessible for more people throughout our city? So with this vision in mind, we are going out and getting some engagement like we love to do. And these are some of the tools that we're using for engagement. A community survey is actually going out through our Office of Strategy. That's our every 2-year community survey that will include some questions that are connected to the comprehensive plan update. So that's a first for us. So out soon. We're also kind of doing kind of what I'm doing here tonight, and just like letting people know how this is, what we're doing, how this is going to impact folks, and really trying to get some feedback. So we're going to neighborhood councils, community events, internal commissions and boards and things like that, and requesting feedback and letting folks know about the process. The visioning workshops are the big engagement piece for this effort. And I will talk about that a little bit more in just a few seconds, but really they're open house community events where we have different stations and activities for folks to give feedback on each of these elements in these chapters. And then just regular kind of communications, we have an email listserv. So if anyone wants to sign up to receive updates on the comprehensive plan update, you can do that. We have a robust website with lots of information on how to get involved and what updates are happening, as well as social media, and as well as some mailers. Did anyone get a One Tacoma Visioning Workshop mailer in the last couple of weeks? Nice. So we were trying to let folks know about this process as much as possible and get folks involved. So another part of the comprehensive plan update is this idea of joint engagement. So since the comp plan touches so much of the city and so much of our different plans that we use to shape the work that we do, we're working across departments to do some coordinated engagement efforts to instead of asking and going out to community 10 different times, asking the community to come to one joint event where they can inform the comp plan, as well as other plans that are being updated currently throughout the city for feedback, so that you don't have to track multiple processes. You don't have to figure out which plan goes where and how do I give input on that plan versus this plan. And so we really have this joint engagement effort, the One Tacoma Coordinated Engagement, which is going to take feedback from the community and then use that feedback to input into these different plans that are happening, including the One Tacoma Comprehensive Plan. We have Tacoma 2035, which is the city's strategic plan. We also have the Transportation Master Plan, which is being updated in conjunction with the comp plan, Community Safety Action Strategy, our biennial budget, and a lot more. So a lot of this engagement is asking questions for multiple plans, and that feedback will fill multiple kind of outlets and how we want to see these things updated. And the big way that we are doing this engagement and this coordinated effort is through our visioning workshops. So we're holding one open house visioning workshop in each of the 8 council districts. We kicked those off in May, and we are continuing through the end of June. And so we have 8 in-person events as well as 1 virtual event that is actually this Thursday. And we're trying to really create hands-on and interactive and engaging ways to get feedback from the community to then input into our updates of our different plans. So we have robust outreach efforts, language ambassador team that's helping us to translate materials into our events. We are trying to be youth and language inclusive, and the events are family friendly, and refreshments are provided. because we really want the whole family to be able to come out and give our feedback, especially for something like the comprehensive plan, which looks at the next 25 years of growth. When we think about who's going to be living here and what's going to look like, we're really wanting to hear from, youth who are going to be, kind of feeling these impacts in the next 25 years. So we really want to make them be family friendly. So the format of these workshops has 8 interactive activity stations to help attendees share their vision for Tacoma, and people can come and interact with any of the 8 stations as they feel. Again, it's open house style, and we also have some interactive art activities to also capture what your vision is for Tacoma. These are the 8 stations that are at the event. So if you see anything that tickles your fancy and you'd like to come and let us know what you'd like to see in any of these areas, we would love to see you. So basically, we're just introducing what this engagement effort is on the first station. The second one is the idea, looking at the idea of this 15-minute city or the 15-minute neighborhoods and how we can help to create more access to these types of things throughout our city. The third station is focused on historic preservation and how we can prioritize different preservation efforts throughout the city. Then we look at economic development and small business and what businesses and jobs and workforce development does Tacoma need to be focused on. And then the 5th station is really a spotlight on whatever neighborhood that we're in. So we all know that there are different concerns and different projects and things that are happening in different neighborhoods. So this station is really where we focus on things that are happening in that specific neighborhood. So in South Tacoma, we'll be talking about the South Tacoma Groundwater Protection District. In New Tacoma, we were talking about some of the tide flats updates. So really trying to be neighborhood specific with that one. And then we talk about the environment and watershed health and really want to know what helps make our neighborhoods greener and cleaner, and talking about stormwater prevention and some of our climate action planning steps right there at that station. Station 7 that looks at community safety. So the community safety action strategy is being updated right now. And so we want to hear from folks about how we can improve safety throughout the city. And then the 8th station is our interactive art station where there's a prompt and you can add to a big canvas art piece that we'll have on display that will be the vision for Tacoma. So as I mentioned, the events kicked off in May. So we are about halfway through, but this Thursday we kick off our June events, which are with our virtual events. So if you have not been able to attend an event so far, you can hop on to Zoom and we'll have an interactive way to interact with all of the different 8 stations via Zoom. And then we're going to be in the South End and the East Side throughout June with these dates. These are on our website, and if you have the mailer only had the May events for this area. But if you're interested, you can also obviously come to any event. They're all open house. And I can also share this with you after tonight, so you'll have those dates as well. And then we also have a website that has all of this information, as well as all of the event dates and then some community events that we'll be at. And you can also put some ideas on our ideas wall. So if you're not able to come to any of the events, you can still share your ideas on all these different topics that we'll then take and use in our comprehensive plan update and our other planning efforts. So if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, there's places to do that, attend our meetings and events, share your comments, and then just let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see from us. This is our email address, and my email address is also on one of these slides, so you can reach out to me if you have any questions. And that's it for that. The activity, I don't know, how much time do I have? Done. Cool. I was like, you want to?
Well, not for an activity, but
Okay.
was the Mason Middle School our one? The
Yes.
North End?
Sorry.
Were we advised of that?
Yeah, well, I sent
Yeah, we were?
sent you the flyer. I sent
Okay.
all of the neighborhood councils the flyer,
Okay.
and then the mailer came to everyone with that information. It was just the timing of coming to this event this
Okay.
meeting didn't match up with that. But you can still come to any of the ones in June for sure, or share your ideas on the ideas wall, or just email me directly.
Any questions for yes, Joe?
Alyssa, it strikes me that this comprehensive plan is a bunch of wishful thinking. The only thing I see the city of Tacoma emphasizing is home construction, apartments, roofs, build more houses, and everything else falls way behind. How do you envision the city of Tacoma ever adding any more parks?
That's a really great question. There's a whole Parks and Recreation chapter in our comprehensive plan, and we're partnering. I mean, we're very close partners with Metro Parks Tacoma, who was here in the house, to make sure that the level of service is being met, for our growth, and that if that's a big need and want from our community that we hear from our community engagement efforts, that those are reflected in our comprehensive plan to then be implemented as the years go on.
Terrific planners.
It's long range planning. So we're not going to see
So,
from this engagement, we're not going to see parks pop up like next year. This is 25 years in the future. So we're really outlining what we want to see for over that time period.
Listen, the fundamental piece of a park is land. And there is no land in the north end of Tacoma unless somebody in the planning department thinks they're going to tear down houses and make a park.
I don't have the answer to that. I don't know how, and that's the importance of planning, right? Is to see what the needs are and see how we can put that into place.
So thank you, Alyssa,
Awesome.
for coming out. I guess I'm feeling a little embarrassed that I wasn't aware that this was already underway. So anything you can share, we will post this on our website. And at our next board meeting, we'll go through and work out how we give you the comments. I'm excited by some of the stuff that you said. I mean, the coordinated engagement, we just had a board meeting and talked about how everything seemed to be siloed. So the thought of this actually departments speaking to each other is really good. So, and please hang around because this is one of our topics that we're going to have in our roundtable. So have I lost Devon? Yeah, thank you. Make sure that we're okay. We think we're still recording? Good. So thank you so much. We appreciate that and we will be in touch. On to our liaison roundtable, just to remind you, I'm not quite sure why we're missing all the audience, but we are taping it, so it'll be up there for the people who are unable to come. So what we'd like to do is go through the liaisons that have come. If you could make like a 2-3 minute presentation on your organization, give us an update on what the issues are. And then we've already decided a couple of topics that we'd like you to address sort of in between you. So as we don't, why don't we just have, we're going to actually empty the room. So why don't we just come up one by one? We can give our 2-minute thing and then we'll get the interactive part. So do I have a volunteer to come up first or I'm looking at Alyssa?
Setup. Goodness. Hi, yeah, I'm Elisa O'Hanlon Regala. Sorry, I forgot there's a camera. And I'm really small in it. And so I do the strategic long range planning for Metro Parks. I've been there for 2.5 years. I used to work in the city's planning department. I used to live in this neighborhood. So I know that one of the hot topics for Metro Parks from some folks is the building at Jefferson Park. So I think you all, I was not here, but I passed along the information to Peter. So you heard at last meeting that it was the victim of 2 arsons. And so as a result of those, the building, it's been determined it had to be, at least half of it had to be demolished. It was irreparable. It was a very lengthy insurance claim to be able to get the money to take care of that building. But we are happy to be moving forward in the next month with the demolition of that building. Now, there is a spray ground that is at the park. And part of requirements for having a spray ground are also to have bathrooms. So until we can be able to rebuild the building, there will be temporary bathrooms. But one of the things we want to do is look forward to being able to rebuild the building in not only to include restrooms, but to bring it up to what would be within capacity and within vision of the community. So we'd like to it will probably be early in the calendar year 2025, do a master plan for Jefferson Park that we can look ahead to, just like Alyssa was talking about, doing the long range visioning. How do we want to continue to build out Jefferson Park in the coming years besides replacing this building? But what are the other things we want to do so that we bring this park up to the next evolution of what the community would like to see in that public space. So if there are any, and so you'll hear word about that planning timeline. But if there are any particular questions, I can address those.
Work our way around. We'll just work our way around the room, sir.
My name is Bob Keefe. I'm the Associate Vice President for Facility Services here at the university. I get the pleasure of taking care of this beautiful campus. And also part of my duties and responsibility is our new development plan that we're just trying to finish up right now, which is our update from our old master plan. We do not define it as a master plan anymore. It's a campus development plan. It'll be looking at our buildings and the purpose and the use of our buildings and how to reuse those buildings, along with a few smaller developments around campus. We have had conversations with some of the city and look forward to talking with the community and really getting out there in the next several months and having that dialogue with everybody. We're very excited about it. As you can see now, the campus is kind of empty. Our graduation was on May 5th, a week earlier, so it gives me an extra week to polish up the campus for our incoming students, which actually come in a little bit earlier. And so we look forward to partnering with the city and the community on keeping this campus as beautiful as possible and having people share and use the campus. Thank you.
So hi, I'm Leslie Barstow with the Port of Tacoma. Lingering issues. I think we maybe just have one, which would be the rendering plant in the Tide Flats that had the fire, and they still have a lease that is good for a few more years, and they would like to rebuild, and the Port Commissioners are weighing whether or not to give them an extended lease so that they would rebuild, because they don't want to rebuild with just 2 years left on the lease. We have presented them with the conditions that would be needed for that to be approved. It's a pretty long document with everything in the kitchen sink in it as requirements from what I've heard. I haven't seen it, but that's what I hear. And apparently they're still considering it. So it will not be on the June commission calendar now. It's probably going to be on the July commission calendar. So it's been getting moved forward and they've been continuing to read it. So I think that's the only lingering thing we have, unless somebody has a question about something else. Okay, thanks.
Hello, good evening. My name is Veronica Birdsong, and I'm from the Tacoma Public Schools, Director of Financial Services. The end of the year is always exciting and busy for us as we are wrapping up the year and celebrating what's coming up next. We recently kicked off graduation season by celebrating students in our Indian education program. We will have celebrated all of our graduates by June 4th. Most will have ceremonies at the Tacoma Dome. On the end of the year celebration theme, I wanted to share an interesting thing. Students from most of our high schools created their own prom safety videos, and we've been sharing those over social media in the last couple of weeks. Take a look when you get a chance. They did an amazing job. We would also love to see you all attend our school board meetings. They are temporarily being held at our professional development center near Skyline Elementary while our elevator is undergoing repairs at the moment. We are also trying to help our students stay safe and engaged this summer by once again offering the summer late night program for our middle school and high schoolers. This is a deep community partnership effort through which many organizations are coming together to host kids every weeknight of the summer from 5 to 10 p.m. They get dinner, they can hang out with friends and participate in fun activities. It's also free to our families. Lastly, we are preparing for next year and we will adjust school start and end times for the fall to take advantage of more efficient bus routes. This change will save about $1 million. High school will start 40 minutes later at 8:15. Middle school will start 35 minutes earlier at 7:40, and elementaries are split with about half of them keeping their existing start time at 9 a.m. and half starting 20 minutes later. All of this information is on our district website.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other Leslie. I'm Leslie Caldwell at Tacoma Public Library. So it is now June, and that means that summer reading is starting. Summer reading will officially begin on June 22nd, but you can sign up now, right now on your Beanstack account and get started. This is not just for children. Adults are welcome to do the summer reading program as well, and there are prizes that you can win at your library. In addition, we have Pride Month starting now in June and July in Tacoma. So stop by the libraries for programs. We have a lot of reading list up for great reading to do during Pride Month. And then finally, just a heads up that we are closed on Wednesday, June 19th for Juneteenth. Again, we have lots of great programming and reading list around that event as well. So that's what I have for now until the panel.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hello, I'm Mary Hallman. I'm with Tacoma Fire Department and just like to share a couple of the things that we're currently working on. We're preparing right now for the 25-26 budget proposal. So quite busy taking a look at what fire department needs are over the next couple of years. June 17th, we'll be starting our next recruit firefighter EMT academy down at the Tide Flats is where our training facility is. This year, we're actually doing a class of 38 recruits, which is unheard of for the department. We generally have a cap size of 24 that we hire at a time, but our staffing over the last several years has been extremely challenged. We're doing everything we can to avoid mandatory overtimes that have, in the last couple of years, had some firefighters working beyond the 24-hour shift for either 48 hours and sometimes 72 hours. So we're now doing some additional hiring in a single class in an attempt to avoid those kinds of staffing issues in the future. One other item that we're working really hard to prepare for is a proposed fire facility fleet and operations levy. There'll be lots of additional information that'll come out on that later in this fall, prior to it being on the ballot. But what we're looking for is some TFD facility improvements and reliable fleet replacement. Recent studies in the fire department showed that 85% of our TFD facilities to be rated in poor or critical condition. We have some temporary fire stations temporary that have been in place for over 15 years. That actually has a porta potty in the back as the second restroom facility. We have Proctor District, which is a beautiful station, over 100 years old. So also, you know, while it's in good condition, the age of the facility does leave for some wanting with fire response and bringing things up to date. So, and then the other piece would be fleet and equipment. So over 60% of TFD's current fleet, our engines, our ladder companies are beyond their useful life. We have a fire garage staff that is most excellent at trying to keep things rolling. But of course, these are apparatus that we need to rely on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we want to make sure that we have reliable equipment so that we're able to respond to all hazards and emergencies reasonably and safely. And those are the biggest updates I'd like to share with you. Thanks.
Anybody else? Oh, John, all right.
I'd love you to come up here, John. No, we got the small screen.
All right. I am on the screen. Okay, good to know. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late. You know, it's school that's out, places to be with young children. So, but I'm happy to be here with you all today. All right, I'll give a couple quick highlights for you all just this evening. Thank you all for being here. Also for those of you online, cameras right over there. So first things first, if you haven't heard, the city's launching something called Pothole Palooza. Pothole Palooza. And we have a wonderful mascot for Pothole Palooza. His name is Phil. Phil the Pothole. Yes, there you go. Pothole Palooza was something I've been talking about for a little while. I hear a lot about potholes. And the city is doing a lot around potholes. We're filling thousands of potholes every year. I mean, and if you put in a through-run request to fill a pothole, it's going to get filled pretty quickly. And so the idea around Pothole Palooza was not doing anything new and different. It's just highlighting what we're already doing here in our city of Tacoma, try to keep our roads up to snuff. And so this week is Pothole Palooza. I was out on 21st and Highland Avenue. They repaved a big part of the intersection there, and they're repaving intersections and filling potholes across our city this week. We're doing a lot of push on social media to let people know about the work we're doing around potholes, where they come from, how they form, how to report them. Just really taking a week for Pothole Palooza. There you go. Works real well. So you'll see these signs with Phil and Pothole Palooza out and about in our city. So we're doing a proclamation tomorrow, so I'll be talking more about that. My notes for what I want to say next. Relevant to you folks, the Proctor Open Streets project started last week with La Paloma Market opening up their open street, which was north, trying to get my streets right, 28th, kind of next to Mason, across from the Top Hot Donuts. They shut down that street, and then we did the La Paloma Market. They're going to be doing that throughout the summer. We have a couple other open streets events, including the Cushman Adams Substation Open Street event, which will be in September. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be really exciting. And the goal of this really, as I've said before, is we're testing out different places in the community around kind of enclosing streets to the traffic and opening them up to other uses to really get an idea of kind of what part of the area we think would be the best for maybe future investments around open streets, right? So we're testing out and activating different parts of the Proctor neighborhood with the idea of future investments around that. So I'm very excited about that. And then Cushman Adams specifically, June 22nd, we're going to be doing the Cushman Adams kind of kicking off the visioning process with OTAC. It's going to be at the Wheelock Library, not the Wheelock Student Center. Let's clarify. The Wheelock Library on June 22nd, which is a Saturday. There's 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session, so you can come to either one. And this is really just going to kick off, or I guess restart the conversation around the Cushman Adams substation reuse. And I know a lot of work's been done already, especially around the North End Neighborhood Council, around kind of the future of that project. And that will all be considered as we kind of move forward with what the future use of that building will be. So thank you all for all the work you've done on that so far. And then finally, while not related to this part of the city, the area of the city of Tacoma called the, we call it the Four Corners, the South 19th and Mildred area over by TCC. So we call it the Four Corners, with it's Fircrest, University Place, Tacoma, and TCC. Pierce Transit got a big grant from the Federal Transportation Administration to do some community-focused investments around that kind of mixed-use center of the Four Corners area. Sound Transit is supposed to extend the link light rail to TCC by 2041, which seemed like a long time ago, years ago, but it's less than 20 years away. And so the idea is get ahead of that with some planning around what that neighborhood's going to look like. It's a growth area not only for the city of Tacoma, but University Place and Fircrest. And so if all those municipalities are thinking about adding a lot of growth and density to that one neighborhood, we want to get ahead of what that's going to look like. So those are the highlights I have for myself this evening. Councilor Rumbaugh sends her regards. She wasn't able to be here because there's a participatory budgeting conversation for District 2 that's happening this evening, so she is there. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Oh, yes. And I just, Fill the Pothole, he has a theme song we're working on right now, so just get ready for that. It'll be soon enough.
Do you want to just try it out?
It's a hip hop kind of rap that Phil uses. Councilmember Scott and I have been talking about it quite a bit. So we'll be ready for prime time soon, but that's it. And I will hang out.
And Pierce Transit, I'm sorry, I jumped over you. Oh, no.
It's all good. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Helt, Community Development Coordinator with Pierce Transit. Pierce Transit is your local transit agency serving the Pierce County area, and we provide bus, shuttle, runner, and ride share, which was formerly called Vanpool. So we are separate from Sound Transit. I'm here today to give you a few updates. June is Ride Transit Month, so you'll see stuff out with trying to promote transit in the area. Pierce Transit kicked it off with offering free transit day on June 1st. So if any of you took advantage of that, everything was ride free. And then serving this area, we have our runner expansion, which is the on-demand micro transit, which maybe you've seen some of the minivans out in the area. This can provide door-to-door service for you or act as a transportation to a bus stop area. And we've just recently expanded it to the north end. So it is on North Proctor Street to North 21st Street and North 30th Street. Formerly, it was just running in the Ruston area, and it has expanded all the way to Point Defiance Zoo as well. So look for the runner in that area, and you can use that on an app to schedule your rides, and it's $2, same as your local bus. And then for youth, it continues to be youth ride free. Any of those 18 and under can get their regional ORCA card, which works not only on Pierce Transit, but Sound Transit and all regional transportation. And so speaking of the summer late nights that came up, we would encourage anybody who is having transportation issues with youth that they do look to ride Pierce Transit's bus or runner service, depending on where they're going to get to these fun summer late night activities. And as mentioned earlier, it is Tacoma Public Schools and Metro Parks Tacoma running June 24th through August 30th. So we would love to see youth take advantage of free transportation to get to those services for them over the summer. and I spoke on our runner. Otherwise, Pierce Transit did implement our new community streamline that went live on April 1st, which was from serving the Spanaway area with 14 stops all the way to Tacoma Dome Station to speed up that transportation corridor for commuters. So that's brief updates if anybody has any questions. Perfect.
One
Yeah,
question. So
sure.
we had announced runner
Uh-huh.
to replace the. So look, does that tell you when that bus down to the bus stop?
You can telephone in and make an appointment over the phone, and they would give you an approximate time on when that would come. The easiest way would do is if you would do it through the app, then you can actually follow the driver and see where that minivan is, and it's going to give you a projected time on when it can be there. So through the Pierce Transit app or the Via Runner app, then that's probably the best way, just so you can see. Oh, it runs on the Russ. It runs in a zone, so it's a designated zone, so it can leave that bus route area. So yes, that's what I mean by door-to-door service. If you land in that zone, it can provide door-to-door service for you, or it can pick you up at your doorstep and take you to a bus stop to complete. So it's kind of considered a leg in between that helps you get to other transit options. So it is in a zone. And the best way to look that up would go to our piercetransit.org/runner. And then you can see the map to see where you fall in that zone. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to invite the, sorry, thank you, Tammy. I'd like to invite the representatives of the different liaisons to come up here and either sit at the table or sit in the front row here. And we're going to start the round table portion. So. We can start, we can pull some extra chairs up as well. Alyssa, why don't you come up as well, seeing, or at least we're going to involve you in the discussion, if not. Okay, so as we've done in the past, we picked a couple of topics to try and get some dialogue with our liaisons. So the first one that we picked, which we had actually picked before Alyssa asked if she could come and address us about the comprehensive plan. One of the things that we as a board spend a lot of time on is the various different planning initiatives that are out there. And I feel Alyssa did answer some of that today in her presentation, but there seems to be a disconnect between all of these different planning initiatives. And one of the questions that we have is how much involvement does the different organizations that you are part of have with the city in those different planning initiatives? So I'm not sure if we've got a couple of microphones, and if anybody wants to start off. So what we're really looking for is talking about a lot of the planning from our perspective as the North End Neighborhood Council seems to be increasing the density of housing. And that obviously has implications for almost all of you, certainly in terms of transit, parks, libraries, all of those things. So how much involvement do you have in the sort of the front end of that planning? Or are you involved, are you at risk of being involved at the back end when suddenly you've got a whole bunch of students or schools or park users? So anybody want to start us off? No, just whoever wants to.
Okay, ready, go. All right. So, I'm with Metro Parks. All right. So, I am the chapter captain for their Parks and Rec element or Parks element. That said, so let's recognize that I have been with Metro Parks for 2.5 years. Prior to that was the 2-year pandemic, where career staff at Metro Parks was let go. So whoever the planning function was before that, I don't know, there always has been, but if you're upset, sorry, I'm a little punchy tonight. If there's frustration, perhaps, that it feels like there aren't enough parks in the North End, that was planning that probably happened years ago. So let's start anew with the new, right? That's why we update the long-range comprehensive plan for the city. And I will say in Metro Parks strategic plan of 2018, we do update our strategic plan every 6 years. The major approach to expanding parks was to develop a partnership with Tacoma Public Schools and really redesign elementary schools to create what are called green schoolyards or community schoolyards, which this is an initiative by the Trust for Public Land across the nation. And so it's worked well in other places. And so recognizing many places are built cities where there isn't vacant land, unless you buy something and tear a house down. This is an approach. And then, so in that, since that 2018 plan, we have been able to create partnerships and, for example, Helen Stafford Elementary in the South End, to open up that playground to be a play field, a neighborhood park, that when not in use for school, it is accessible to the community. So that was the major strategy out of the 2018 plan. I will talk more about planning about parks and what our strategy is moving forward now in the 2024 update of our strategic plan. But yes, rest assured that we are in the front of being part of the long range planning of the city of Tacoma.
Yeah, of course. All right. So when it comes to new housing, we usually work with the demographer that helps with our enrollment projections. And some of the areas that they look at are, birth rates. Are there any new developments going up? If there are, where are they? Are they single housing units? Are they multiple family units? Are they low income units? And so basically based upon what type of housing units we have and where they're located, we're kind of on the back end. We might know that something's going up, but we won't know exactly what the direct impact is until, families start moving in, and then it's running and trying to get transportation going and making sure that whatever boundaries they are, that we have enough spots as far as enrollment, depending on where it's located at.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to mention from the library standpoint, I think the way that we're involved most in the front end is by hosting a lot of the community forums. So we've hosted a lot of the visioning sessions, the Home in Tacoma sessions as well. So we try to be a place where the community can come and collaborate together on the front end for these kinds of things. Just that's my answer to that question.
Which I would say same with Pierce Transit. That's done through our planning department, who's also working on our long range planning. So while I'm not involved in that, they are sure to get out into the community or hire consultants to hear from the Tacoma community and see what the needs are. I'm not sure how closely our planning department works with the city of Tacoma, but we are out there getting a pulse from the community members themselves.
Well, I was going to say, while looking at this list of things, you put the port's not really involved in a lot of the things that the city is doing in those regards. However, we're pretty committed to environmental justice. So if something like a zoning change is going to put housing in the middle of the tide flats, that's something that we are going to be looking for. Because that creates new environmental justice issues when you start to put housing near industrial lands. So that's something we're keeping an eye out, because the preservation of industrial lands and something like the tide flats, which is sort of isolated away from neighborhoods, is really important to preserve so that industrial lands don't pop up in the middle of a neighborhood.
You also played a big role in the Tide Flats sub-area plan and the draft environmental impact statement that was recently released. So you're a huge part of planning for that. Do you want to talk about level of service a little bit? Public facilities?
So, yeah, so as I mentioned, this is great timing. I wasn't planning on being part of this. It was awesome to see so many people that I work with on paper, but not so much face to face through this comprehensive plan update, but also through our Home in Tacoma initiative. And we're still working with, because it's still in process. And I can give an update on that in a second, but working with all of these agencies in our environmental impact statement process to see what the impacts of increased density will be on our level of service for things like parks, libraries, schools, police, and fire services, to see what those impacts are going to be, and then outline any mitigation efforts that are needed to address any impacts that those are going to have. So we've been working with folks, representatives from, I say, every agency here, to make sure that we are accommodating those things as we are planning for growth. So through the environmental impact statement process, as well as now this comprehensive plan process, wanting to make sure that we have really strong relationships. The comp plan hasn't been updated for 10 years. So like Elisa mentioned, there's a lot of new staff and new faces and new energy, I think, around this alignment. So there's a lot more willingness to work together and to coordinate these efforts, because it's hard to do all of this alone, right? And we want to make sure that we're doing it as comprehensively as possible. And then with Home in Tacoma, again, working through that process currently. So our draft environmental statement is still out there. We're working to update that and have the final environmental impact statement ready with the final package. On this, it has the wrong date. It's this Wednesday, June 5th is the Planning Commission a date that the Planning Commission will make their final recommendations to council. So if you want to tune in for that, and that will kind of outline some of the next steps for Home in Tacoma, but we will continue to work with all of our partners as much as possible to make sure that we're addressing these challenges. So it says Wednesday, June 7th, but it's actually Wednesday, June 5th. Same time, 5 o'clock. But yes, the day is the day. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got it down. You can come be a planner for us. Yes, so the Planning Commission is working through their final amendment. So what they did is they took all of the comments and all of the letters that were received during the last public comment period, that was February of earlier this year, and looked at everything like, okay, here's the package, here's the comments, here's some changes, some things we want to make, we want to tweak. They put forth about 30 amendments. They passed about 20 of them. So we put all of those updates into the code, into the recommendations package. And on Wednesday, they're going to take a final look at that, say, this looks good. This is what we're going to recommend to City Council. So then council will take it and they'll set a public hearing date, and there'll be a public hearing process at the council level. Well, they'll get their chance to look at it, see if it looks good, see if it meets the goals that we set forth in phase 1, see if it meets the goals of our community. They have an opportunity to hear from folks if we're still missing something, if something else needs to be changed. We'll have another round of engagement where we'll come out again. I'll do the whole engagement again, and we'll figure out where we need to see any changes, and then council will make their recommendation based on that.
grab one.
I'm not sure if I'm the only one awake or the only one that's willing to stand up and ask questions. What seems apparent is that everyone has to, all these other agencies have to respond to what the city does with home and Tacoma and density. Each of them has to respond and provide services for increased density, but the city is going to put it everywhere. So how is it, this is for John, you zone the whole city for upgrading all at once, and all these departments have to increase their budgets to deal with that, and they can't predict because they don't know what's coming. But if you zone the city one part of the city at a time, then transportation can estimate the number of buses. The library can decide how big they need to expand. Port Tacoma schools can project how many seats they need, how many classrooms, how much money. Yet the present home in Tacoma we see is citywide. Build it wherever you want to build it, whatever you want to build, and we'll deal with it later. After all, we're just the taxpayers.
Okay. With that, so I was going to make a comment about one of the pieces here that is different about how the city approaches growth and planning versus maybe some of these organizations. So because of the Growth Management Act, the city has to plan for growth. When I say plan for growth, it does not mean that the growth will arrive. It just means we have to provide the capacity for that growth within our zoning framework. So the city has been planning for growth since GMA passed in 1992, with projections of the city growing to 300,000 for a long time. The growth hasn't shown up. We are growing at a steady clip. It has not shown up, but we still have to plan for it based on the GMA. Now, the difference between us and us needing to plan for it versus, say, the school district, and I work for the school district, is they work off a demographer. So they respond to growth as it actually shows up. The Park District, Pierce Transit, other organizations respond to the growth when it actually shows up. So when we say we're going to expand capacity in the state of Tacoma to allow 300,000 people, the school district doesn't then start taxing you to accommodate 300,000 people worth of children in the schools, right? As you can tell right now, we're looking at fewer students in our schools, so we're actually seeing reductions. Pierce Transit doesn't increase capacity to meet the population of 300,000 people. So we have to create a comprehensive plan. State law requires us to create a comprehensive plan that allocates growth across our city. You're correct. We could, as a city, say we're going to get to 300,000 people, and as a council could designate downtown to accommodate 100,000 of those people. Like, we are in complete control of where the growth goes. One of the challenges that we have as a council is that how do we think about growth in kind of a broader way and think about kind of the types of housing that we want to have available in our community, right? Because we could plan that the only thing we want to see in our community for the future is 50-story high-rise luxury housing in downtown Tacoma. We could do that, right? But we don't, one, think that's probably what's going to happen, and two, recognize that there are different models of growth and patterns that we want to look at for our city. So the conversation we're having at Home in Tacoma is, what kind of growth patterns do we want to see? What kind of housing options do we want to see? And how do those fit with some of the other components around housing and resources we have? And that we create a plan and when that would work with our partners as those people actually do show up. Yeah. I mean, our current plan right now is, we've said, we historically up to this point, leave the single family neighborhoods alone and put all of our growth in downtown and the mixed use centers. Now, I have heard concerns from people in this neighborhood about the amount of growth going into one mixed use center, which is right here. And so another model is to not put all the growth into mixed use centers, but look more broadly at our entire zoning map and look at other places to put growth. And that's something we're looking at. And the state law requires us at this point in time to do it. So we're going to have to at least get to 4 units per lot in the city of Tacoma, and 6 if they're affordable by state law. So we'll have a broader conversation around this and what growth looks like when the Planning Commission sends their proposal to us. And there should be a public hearing in August for that.
Okay, that's terrific. I'm going to move on to the next subject, which actually ties in the people who weren't speaking on that one. And that's the issue of homelessness or unhoused, whichever the politically correct terminology is. So I think
we are aware this isn't just a Tacoma issue. This is an issue that is everywhere. But we are interested in how does your specific organization deal with it? And it's sort of the bits that are hidden from us. We have this wonderful 311 program where we can go online and report. And those of us that are on that, we every morning we see messages going out. We don't quite ever see what happens after those messages. So the police presentation today was enlightening to hear about the good stuff that has happened up in the Gateway area. But how do you deal with that? And before the meeting, I was talking, we have this beautiful campus here, and we never see any homeless. Yet we see homeless all kinds of other areas. So what can we learn from what the university does? What's the issue? The port, we know, has huge problems in terms of where my truck drivers want to park their trucks. They can no longer park their trucks because there's motorhomes. So I think we'd just be interested, perhaps go around and say, what issues is homelessness giving your organization and how are you dealing with it? And I'm going to start with our police contingent and work our way along.
Well, homelessness in itself is not a crime. So we work with neighborhood community services to go out and offer resources. So they're doing the work and we're providing security for them. Because there is more calls for service that they can handle, we as law enforcement handle the human habitation of vehicles on the public roadway. And we go make initial contact. And then if they would like resources, we pass that information on to neighborhood community services, who is the gateway for the resources and has all the connections. Calls for service that involve homeless are a large percentage of the calls that we do deal with. So it does take a lot of our resources. It does take a lot of our time. So as an organization, we have to be balanced and address those calls, but not just take action because there's a homeless element there. We still have to weigh, is there a crime, and is this a call for service that the police can take action on? Because if there's no crime there, we can't just arrest people for being homeless. Like I said, that is not a crime. Like to add?
I would just like to say too, one of the challenges that we face is that oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes when we are dealing with the homeless population or the unhoused is there's usually a mental health element and usually some drug use that goes along with that. Recently, wow, I can't speak articulately tonight. Legislation has changed, allowing us to take law enforcement action for those folks that are using drugs in open public. And so that's made it a little bit easier for us to kind of address some of those issues that seem to be repeating issues. And then along with that, Pierce County Jail recently just reopened for us to be able to book everybody for all crimes. We were really running off of the COVID restrictions for pretty much the last 4 years, which really kind of tied our hands on who and what we could book into Pierce County Jail. And so I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we got an email stating that the jail has reopened. They are actually accepting folks for everything. So even a chronic trespasser on a homeless, that's homeless, like Luke said, if we can identify that there's a crime, which trespassing is a bookable crime, then we have the option to, take them to jail and actually have the jail hold them and have there be a court date issued and whatnot, not just sip them where they were just kind of fingerprinting them, photographing them and kicking them out the back door. So that's another challenge that we have as the police department is identifying if there is actually something wrong, if there's a crime happening, and then also dealing with the mental health element of it and the drug use element of it. So fortunately, we have the help and the support of TFD, and they have the HOPE program that I'm sure you can probably speak to a little bit more, with some mental health professionals that are non-commissioned, non-law enforcement, non-fire department people who come out and assist with that as well, which makes a huge difference. And unfortunately tonight, there's nobody here from Neighborhood and Community Services, which would have been super awesome if there was, because like Luke said, the HEAL team does an amazing job. They do take the lead on the housing and the resources and getting folks into shelters and tiny homes and things like that. And so we work very, very closely with them on a daily basis when we are addressing some of these issues.
The unhoused population does have quite a significant impact on fire department response, particularly our emergency medical services response. Our call volume over the last 10 years has gone up over 30%. It's not all due to the unhoused. Certainly our population growth has added to that, but in particular areas throughout the city, our response to unhoused individuals has significantly increased. Along with the increase in call volume, as I've shared previously, our number of resources has not changed. So we still have the same number of engines, same number of ladders, same number of ladder companies, same number of personnel that are responding, but they were just responding to a larger number of incidents that they get dispatched to. So as we respond to calls for emergency services to the unhoused population, that just means that if a particular company is out, the next closest company may take a bit longer to get to another emergency. So the fire department does not respond. So we just shift our resources around to do the response volume. And as you've mentioned, we do have a new program. In fact, it's just celebrated its 1-year anniversary, which is the HOPE program. It's Holistic Outreach Promoting Engagement. It is not solely for unhoused individuals. It is intended to be a behavioral health crisis response. To the point of when the HOPE program was established, it's been police and fire that have been responding primarily to behavioral health emergencies. And quite honestly, the training that we receive for those particular kinds of emergencies is not sufficient to be able to respond to those emergencies. So often you're not getting the exact right resource for the exact right problem that's presenting. So the idea behind the HOPE team is that they are behavioral health specialists, behavioral health licensed individuals who go out into respond to the 911 emergency, either with police when they arrive on scene and find something, or with fire. They get dispatched as emergency services, and then they have a caseworker who does the follow-up for those services. Often there is an element of housing instability. They also do some response work with substance use disorders. So they're getting individuals at a time of crisis, and they're getting them connected then through case management with the appropriate resources. It's a strictly voluntary engagement. So if an individual does not want to be involved and there's not a legal action to take, then the HOPE team will respect the individual's choices, and they'll be ready to respond in the future should that need arise. So it's, as I said, 1 year in the making, and the hope is, pun intended, I suppose, the hope is that the HOPE program will continue to expand. Right now, the hours are limited, that they are staffed. And so the emergencies happen 24/7. The HOPE team is available for approximately 8 hours in a day, and it slides based on when we can, the data shows there's the highest probability of response for those particular problems.
As far as the school district, so our unhoused youth, also known as our McKinney-Vento students, based on our report card at OSPI, about 7% of our students are classified as McKinney-Vento. There's domino effects of that, right? Our students are not victims of the circumstance. So as a school district, we try to make sure that they are comfortable with what's happening, meaning we are trying to keep them still in their school where they attend. So that has transportation implications, whether that's on the bus working with other school districts because they may be housed somewhere else outside of the district, as well as taxis or other means, which again is additional cost to the district. So that's kind of how we handle McKinney-Vento, as well as providing resources for families to help get them help with whatever situation they're dealing with.
And at the library, we say that we are radically welcoming, and we mean that for all patrons of the community. So a couple of things that we've done recently, we hired a social worker who actually I think worked at McKinney-Vento previously, as well as a safety and security officer. And they have been working to really help us establish some procedures for supporting our unhoused patrons. And as the fire department mentioned, we have been doing some training as well, and so that we could be prepared. And yeah.
Sure. At Pierce Transit, we can see the homeless impact at our bus stops and things of that nature, where it does impact the general community on safety issues. So we do try to increase the visibility of our security team being out, especially at our larger locations. Spanaway, Tacoma Dome Station, South Hill Mall location. So transit centers, we try to increase visibility. But transit is there for the homeless and to provide a need that they absolutely need to get them to services and programs that are out there. So we also offer Orca Lift, which is those who are reduced fare. It's a $1 cost to ride transportation, or we have our HSA program for those service providers that can get bus tickets at 50% discount to be able to provide to their clients to get to services and things that they need throughout the community that otherwise they would not be able to get to. And then we work with organizations such as the Tacoma Fire Department through their FD Cares, where we have our Orca for Business program, which provides Orca cards at 90% off of retail pricing for their clients to use either locally or regionally. So we're trying to really get out there, partner with not only employers, but clients who really need our service to get them to places that can really help them and benefit them, whether it's doctor's appointments, mental health appointments, or even getting to the library or looking for a job. Or, you know, for some, I've worked closely with probation officers to get them as soon as they're released from jail and don't have anywhere to go, they're using public transportation to make it to appointments that they need. So we really fill that gap, and we understand, we hear from the community a lot on safety issues. And so we try to address that as well. But public transportation is public transportation that is there for everybody to use. But at the same time, if you go by a bus stop and you see homeless have been living there and there are littered and garbage, we ask that you please call our customer service department, because we do like to address those issues, and we like to clean our shelters so that it is inviting for others. But if we're not always out there to see it, we do like that input from the public. So we know where maybe you see a homeless encampment going up, so that we can address it from our Pierce Transit side, as well as then them working with the police department.
Well, for Tacoma, it's challenging because we do not own the Tide Flats. And that's a bit of a misnomer. We own about 2,500 acres of land down there. There's 5,000 acres of land down there. So we own about half of it, which means there's 5,000 acres that half of is either private property or owned by the tribe, and all the streets are owned by the city, and except for 509, which is owned by the state. So depending on where an encampment pops up, it could be not on our property. And then things become very challenging to figure out how to deal with that encampment, and lots of people involved and lots of coordination. But when an encampment is broken up, those people largely end up in the city of Fife. And we do have a program that we have created with the city of Fife, which is actually pretty cool. The city of Fife gives these people jobs, and their Parks and Rec department, and they will hire them to do grounds maintenance in their parks. And we help pay for that. And it's actually been a very, very well-received, positive program. And it's really helped. So I think our biggest role and the way we can be the most helpful really is we create jobs. That's what the port does. And that's a preventative thing, right? So one of the ways that people become homeless is poverty. And most of the jobs the port creates pay a very good wage. And if we can help keep people employed, and maybe we can prevent people from ending up unemployed or in homeless in the first place. So hopefully if we keep making a difference in that way, maybe we can help curb the tide of people ending up that way in the first place.
Well, parks certainly are for everyone in our community. And so we love to see everybody in our public spaces from dawn till dusk, because all parks are closed from dusk till dawn. So we do work closely and rely on Tacoma Police for the enforcement of when the parks are closed and for illegal activities that happen in the parks, whether you are housed or unhoused. We also have increased our private security contract for many reasons. So we do have, besides Tacoma Police, we have park rangers they aren't in every park, but they can offer support to law enforcement and tap into the HEAL team quite a bit when there are individuals in the park spaces that could use services for physical, mental, emotional health and stability. And our community centers are also centers for support. Someone who is unhoused can go to one of the community centers, get a shower, get a change of socks, change of underwear, some personal hygiene supplies. And as a person myself who uses the People Center frequently, I know that the People Center is used for folks who are experiencing homelessness.
So we know we heard a lot about the things that the city is doing, from neighborhood and community services standpoint with their HEAL team and a lot of the houseless outreach that's happening there. And then on the planning side, through Home in Tacoma, trying to create more houses for more people. But the Home in Tacoma initiative is also part of a larger strategy called our Affordable Housing Action Strategy, which has additional policies and plans outlined that the city can do to further assist people in finding affordable housing so that they can find that roof over their head. And then on a personal level, another thing, implementation to address this situation. One of the programs I do in my house is called shared housing through Associated Ministries. So I house young adults 18 to 24 who are experiencing houselessness. And I think it's a great program. And I kind of want to plug it just if anyone is interested. There are lots of different ways that we're trying to find solutions to this. And it takes a lot of different approaches for our community to come together to house our community. So I just want to give that a little plug as well.
We don't have a lot of homeless camps on campus in my time here. While it's a very important issue to the university, we do feel that having our campus patrolled 24/7, in the 100 acres, constantly having activity in all of our fields. We have students here constantly. This is probably the slowest week we've got more students in the summertime than do in the winter. So I think there's so much activity on campus, and there's places that we clear out so we don't have any of that problems in there for safety reasons. So we don't see that. If we do come across where we do hear about a student or someone that's homeless, we do have outreach programs. We have an entire amazing team in our student affairs group that will reach out to those particular students or to those people to help find ways and means and methods to help them. But it is a very important topic to us. And I think some of these could blend into some of this densification that we're thinking about. I mean, there's a lot of that that could help this problem that we have.
This is an issue. Leadership.
Well, thank you to everyone who's answered the question so far. I think hopefully what you take away from this is that that homelessness is not monolithic. There's not one reason why anyone's homeless, and that we as a community are not responding to it as if there is one set of people who are experiencing homelessness for all the same reasons and that require the exact same response. So I think that'd be the first thing I want everyone here to take away from this conversation. I think to step back, I've been on the council since 2020, and when you think about kind of what we've done since 2020, we've expanded the HEAL team, which is our homelessness engagement alternatives liaison team, from 4 FTEs to 8 FTEs. So we've doubled the number of people that are out making contact with people experiencing homelessness and trying to connect them to shelter and services. Since I joined the council, we've added over 300 emergency shelter beds to our portfolio, including the 6 in Orchard Tiny Homes Village. I want to thank our state partners and our federal partners. We got $3 million from the state of Washington in order to continue to operate those emergency shelter sites. And so that's another thing we've done since we've been here. I think when you think about how we address homelessness, it's kind of multiple layers. And I like to use the, I guess, a health, like a body health analogy for it, right? So if you think about becoming a healthy person, right, it requires both kind of addressing acute issues and chronic issues over the long term, right? So when we think about our shelter system, that's how we address the kind of the acute impacts of homelessness, right? These are people who are on our streets who need a roof over their head to stabilize themselves. So we have shelters along with our partners to provide shelter to stabilize people. And then in the long term, we're looking at how do we provide more housing options for people, right? Tacoma is growing. It is, right? And when it grows and people move into our community who may be more affluent or have more money, they put pressure on our housing system. And I was at a presentation at the University of Washington, Tacoma last week by a gentleman named Greg Coburn, University of Washington, Seattle. He wrote a book called Homelessness is a Housing Problem. It's a great book. Encourage anybody to read it. And what he talks about is when you think about housing, you think about a game of musical chairs, right? So if there aren't enough, we have a 10 chairs in a room and everybody has a chair. Somebody else comes into that room and they're faster or a better playing musical chairs, they're going to get the seat, and the person who's like the slowest and maybe injured or whatever is not going to get one. It's how our housing market works here. I mean, in our region, right? As people are moving to Tacoma, which is a good thing, they put pressure on the housing market, and the people who are left out are often the people who are the most vulnerable, right at the bottom end. And he makes really good points, right? He talks about the fact that, like, does drug addiction cause homelessness? And he's like, well, there are lots of people who have housing that are addicted to drugs, right? Does mental illness cause homelessness? Well, there's a lot of people with mental illness that have homes over their heads, right? So while they are factors that can lead to it, they're not the factor, right? So it's housing is one of the things he leans into. And so when we think about that, it's why we're investing a lot of money in permanent supportive housing, different affordable housing options for people who really can't ever, that really going to struggle to find housing for their lives. And then we're also trying to build more housing, right? Which is what Home in Tacoma is, right? So not only are we dealing with like acute issues like sheltering people, but also adding more housing capacity for people to move into, right? So we want to make sure that there's more places for people to go. I think that's just kind of when we think about it that way. I think broadly, I'm very happy, there are components, along with people experiencing homelessness, do we have issues around drugs in our community? Yes, we do. And we're trying to approach that in lots of different ways that will have spillover effects on homelessness. Do we have issues with mental illness and untreated mental illness in our community? We do. We're working on ways to try to expand access to treatment, and that will have spillover effects on some of the factors we're seeing in homelessness. But I think if there's one thing I hope the public, whoever's listening, takes away from this, right, is we are doing lots of things all at the same time with one goal, which is to try to make sure there are fewer people living on our streets in the city of Tacoma. Right? And not only are we doing it, but we're working with the county to do it too. And we're working with the state of Washington to do it. And I know people are not happy with the results we've seen so far. Neither am I. I'm sure everyone in this room is not happy with the results we've seen so far, but that doesn't mean we're not doing anything. And that doesn't mean that we're not on the right path, which I think is we are doing lots and we are on the right path.
I'd just like to really thank you all for coming. It's enlightening to us to know some of those concerns that we have, know that they are being so much more. So on that basis of back to my business, the 8-to-1 rule. So go out and tell 8 people what a fabulous job you did. And hopefully you'll learn something from each other. So thank you so much. I'll just. We have, with respect to old business, we listed each time. I don't think I have any new reports on the various issues that we're monitoring. Our next meeting is on Monday, July the 1st, and we're back on the Cushman and Adams substations. And I think we already had a little bit of an update. There's some exciting stuff coming there, the restart of that whole process. So we'll see all of you, and thank you again. It's a wonderful, wonderful roundtable. Thank you.